Well, for the equation x cubed minus 3x squared minus 10x equals 0, our first task is to factor out any common factors. And it turns out that x is a common factor. So factoring out an x, we get x times the quantity x squared minus 3x minus 10. And that product equals 0. Now it turns this factor factors. So every quadratic, if it's going to factor, the factors are going to be of this form. The leading term in each case will be x. And now, since the first and last signs disagree, we know this negative 3x is a difference. So what factors of 10 have a difference of 3? Well, 2 times 5 is 10, and the difference in 5 and 2 is 3. Next issue, who gets the negative? Well, let's see. If this is a negative 5x plus 2x, we will get a negative 3x. So we'll put the negative here, the positive here. Let's check it out. Negative 5x, the product of those two, plus 2x is negative 3x, which agrees with what we have, so good. We also know the product of x and x is x squared, and the product of negative 5 and 2 is negative 10. All products agree. So consequently, we're almost there. Next thing, let's check our solutions. Well, with the first factor, we'll set x equal to 0, and that's done. For the next factor, x minus 5 equals 0. So adding 5 to both sides and isolating x, we get x equals 5. For the third factor, x plus 2, we'll set x plus 2 equal to 0. And isolating x, we'll subtract 2 from both sides, and we'll get x equal to negative 2. So our solutions are x equals negative 2, x equals 5, x equals 0, x equals negative 2, 0, and 5 are our solutions to the given equation. Finally, we have the equation 6y squared minus 5y equals 4 minus 28y. And our first task is to get 0 on one side of the equal sign, everything else on the other. So 6y squared, and adding, we'll add 28y to both sides. And 28y minus 5y is 23y. And we will subtract 4 from both sides. And now here we have a quadratic equation that will factor. And we know this, that since the first and last signs disagree, then these two signs are going to disagree. We also know that y is a factor of the first term. The next issue is what goes here and here. And we know this, that this 23y is a difference. So let's list the factors of 6 and list the factors of 4, 1 and 6, 2 and 3, and 1 and 4, and 2 and 2. And see if there's some combination of products and sums that relative to these coordinates, or these value factors, that will have a difference of 23. And look, I think we struck gold with the first inspection. 6 times 4 is 24, minus 1 times 1 is 23. So we're talking about 6 times 4 and 1 times 1. Well, there's a 1 here, it's understood. Now, one of these signs will be positive, one will be negative. We need since this is positive, we need a 6 times for a positive 24 and a minus 1y. Now let's check it out. 6y times y is 6y squared. Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. Let's check out the middle term. Negative y, the product of these two. The product of these two is 24y. Add them up and there's our 23y, which is the middle term. So we have factored correctly. Now we'll set each of these factors equal to 0 and solve for the values of y that will take this equation to 0. So 6y minus 1 equals 0. Adding 1 to both sides, we get 6y equals 1. Now we'll isolate y by dividing through by 6. So the 6's divide out, and we have y equals 1 over 6. For the factor y plus 4, we'll set y plus 4 equal to 0. Now we have to isolate y, so we'll subtract 4 from both sides. And so y equals minus 4. So now the zeros are y equals negative 4 or 1/6. And we're done.